The Indiana Pacers finally committed to a retool at last year's trade deadline, while trading Caris Levert to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and more importantly, splitting the two big men Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, with Sabonis heading to Sacramento. But even with those big moves, the Pacers have not fully committed to a rebuild, but yet they are nowhere near good enough to be a playoff regular with the current ability of this roster. So let's talk about this Pacers roster and what direction they could decide to go in over the next 12 months. Tyrese Haliburton is of course the center of any Pacers discussion moving forward, as they got the young rising star in their blockbuster trade for Domantas Sabonis at the trade deadline. He is the central piece of any Pacers future and any plan moving forward. He's already an elite passer and in turn a great playmaker. His vision is some of the best I've seen in recent memory for this early in a player's career. His three-point shooting is very good, and at 6'5", it helps him to be able to pull up over defenders from mid-range, and it has also helped him to be a very good defender, where his length certainly comes into play. He is a future star, no doubt. Malcolm Brogdon is at or near an all-star level when he is on the court. Unfortunately, it seems staying on the court seems to be the biggest struggle for Brogdon. Sure, Brogdon's first 2 seasons in Indiana were shortened seasons, but Brogdon is yet to play over 60 games in a season with the Pacers. The positive news is with Tyrese Haliburton now in town, Brogdon can finally return to his more natural position, shooting guard, where he has to play make less, something he has gotten fairly good at but is certainly not elite at. However, he seems to be much more elite at playing off ball and being a very good catch and shoot three-point shooter and spacer, something he will get to do much more of with Tyrese Haliburton on the team. Miles Turner will also greatly benefit from the Pacers trade deadline moves. Firstly, he now has a front court to himself. He no longer has Domantas Sabonis sitting in the paint, and so he will be able to demonstrate that post game that he hasn't really gotten a chance to showcase yet. Turner will no longer have to be solely a spacer, as he was often alongside Sabonis. Secondly, Turner will be playing with the best playmaker and passer he has ever played with. And as he is a great lob threat, his offensive game has the potential to reach new heights this upcoming season with Sabonis out of his front court and Tyrese Haliburton in the backcourt. Buddy Hield also came over in the Tyrese Haliburton trade, and although his defense is not great and his contract is not ideal, he's still one of the best spacers and three-point shooters in the league. These 4 players are certainly the 4 highest valued players on the Pacers roster, but it is very possible 3 of these 4 get moved in the near future, something we will talk about in a few minutes. Chris Duarte came in as an NBA-ready prospect and proved to be that. He isn't some elite upside player, but is a valuable spacer and three-point shooter, and we will talk more later about his potential of filling in the Buddy Hield role. Jalen Smith was acquired at the trade deadline. He's a former lottery pick, and before being traded and after being traded, finally got some significant playing time in the league and showed why he was selected 10th overall. He is a good rebounder, has been very efficient, can space the floor at a fairly good rate, and has some solid upside moving forward for this Pacers roster. O'Shea Brissett continues to be an under-the-radar role player who seems to break out and show great flashes at the end of the season, and if he can keep that level of production, he's going to be very valuable over the course of next season for the Pacers. TJ McConnell, although injured for a majority of last season, is still a very valuable playmaking and defensive guard off of the bench. Isaiah Jackson unfortunately missed significant time as well, but showed positive flashes as a rookie. Goga Bitadze continues to be an improving backup big who can rebound, can give you some good paint presence, and is continuing to improve his touch and scoring around the rim. Terry Taylor is a shooting guard who struggles to shoot the 3 at a great rate or at much volume, which is not exactly prototypical, but that's not to say that Terry Taylor doesn't have an impact. In 33 games last year, he showed he can attack the rim well and is an elite rebounder for his size and position, getting many offensive rebounds and second chance points. And Dwayne Washington Jr. was forced into a significant role last year thanks to injuries to Malcolm Brogdon and TJ McConnell, and looked much more comfortable as he progressed through the season, became much more comfortable as the primary ball handler, as a playmaker, and while being a good three-point shooter. But ultimately, the core of Tyrese, Turner, Buddy, and Brogdon are at the forefront of any future Pacers decisions, and those decisions that could come sooner rather than later is what we need to talk about. The Indiana Pacers so far have committed to a retool, as per reports and as per their current roster. They have some good competitive pieces, but are very devoid of wing talent and depth, which is what currently holds them back from being a playoff team. However, rumors have circulated that when Malcolm Brogdon is eligible to be traded this offseason, the Pacers could look to move on from him only a year after giving him an extension, indicating that the direction is more so towards a rebuild while handing the keys of the franchise to Tyrese Haliburton. And we'll get to that option where a complete rebuild takes place. But let's first talk about what a retool in Indiana looks like. Next year, the projected starting lineup would be Tyrese Haliburton, Malcolm Brogdon, Buddy Hield, Oshae Brissett, and Miles Turner, but it is also possible that Jalen Smith starts in turn for Buddy Hield and Oshae Brissett plays at the 3. And that's a fairly good team, but obviously wing quality is very much lacking behind, and depth is also in question. Some moves would have to be made via free agency and or the draft, which the Pacers could do via what will likely be a fairly high lottery pick in the 2022 draft, or a trade where Buddy Hield could be moved, seeing Chris Duarte pick up the role of being the depth scorer and spacer, while Buddy is used to acquire some wings. With the right moves over the next 1 to 2 years, the Indiana Pacers could continue to develop from Tyrese Haliburton, Miles Turner, and other internal improvements, and could see the Pacers return to being a playoff regular again in the East. However, this assumes health for Miles Turner and Malcolm Brogdon, who have had injury concerns over the last couple of seasons, and it assumes the Pacers, who are a small market, will be able to add the needed wing talent and depth, which if they don't draft well, could be difficult to do. This also assumes Miles Turner re-signs in Indiana, who only has 1 year left on his contract, which is very important to note, and is why I'll explain more in a moment why if Malcolm Brogdon gets traded this summer, it is virtually a guarantee that a rebuild is coming. This is certainly not a bad option, but it certainly isn't perfect, and it has some problems surrounding its possible success. So if a retool is not the option in Indiana, what does a rebuild look like? Based on rumors, contractual situations, and where the roster currently stands, I think a complete rebuild is incoming, which I fully support. Firstly, Malcolm Brogdon is the first player to be moved, or is the central piece that will be moved in this rebuild. He has been the player most involved in trade rumors since the trade deadline, and with his recent injury concerns and in turn lack of consistent production, Indiana wanting to move on from Malcolm Brogdon makes sense. Assuming the Pacers prioritize getting back future assets and not another player in their prime, the Pacers would start to indicate with this move that they are moving towards a rebuild. That would trigger, or at least should trigger, a Miles Turner trade. Now you may ask, why should it trigger a Miles Turner trade? Turner is obviously younger than Malcolm Brogdon, and they can build around Turner and Tyrese Haliburton. Well, the problem is that Miles Turner only has 1 year left on his contract before he becomes an unrestricted free agent. And so, 1, Miles Turner could simply very well want out of an incoming rebuild, or 2, the Pacers could simply look to get future assets that fit their desired timeline a bit more accurately with Tyrese Haliburton. That would now leave the Pacers with a Cavaliers future first, Tyrese Haliburton, Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, Chris Duarte, Oshae Brissett, and the trade returns of a Malcolm Brogdon trade and a Miles Turner trade, not to mention a potential Buddy Hield trade, which would return relatively significant future assets via players and or picks. Now, it is certain this would make the Pacers' window for winning a few years down the line, but they would be in a great place to start a rebuild with a great head start from multiple trades acquiring assets. Similar to what the Orlando Magic did at the 2021 trade deadline just a bit over a year ago, but the Pacers simply just have more assets to move. The ceiling would be high for this Pacers team moving forward, and in my opinion, given the current circumstances, it's their best chance at forming a very competitive roster, and I'd say it's a pretty darn good chance as well. That is my thoughts on what's next for the Indiana Pacers, but be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content just like this. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.